Morning all. Welcome to another Training 20. We are doing another functional session today focusing on the dead bug, which you may have never actually heard of, but what I consider one of the most important core exercises you can really do, because it's one of the best for teaching you how to brace your core and actually activate it, which when you master it can be so useful for literally every single exercise you can ever do, by being able to use that core during any exercise. So we're gonna start off with just loosening up a little bit, and then we're gonna get straight into it. So bring yourselves down first of all. We're gonna go flat back, feet and knees together, and we're gonna roll the knees side to side, like so. Just gonna loosen up that back a little first, loosen up that core. And legs go out straight. I'm just going to pull the knee in like so. And then swap sides. Once again on each side. And then we're going to take it into cat-cow. So this is where we're really starting here. So cat-cow is key for learning how to move your hips. So this arching and rounding the back here is what we're really going to need to focus on today in order to be successful in performing a proper dead bug. So we've also got arching position here and rounding here. So join me in with this, arch and round. Now my shoulders are doing something as well as my hips, but I can do it without the shoulders. I'm just arching and rounding, so arch there, round, just from the hips, and that's really key to what we're doing today. So focus on that first of all, using those hips to tuck the hips under and then push back to arch the back. Tuck the hips and tuck, tuck and tuck, like so. Keep going with that, a few more. So there's three main positions we're kind of focusing on here. It's actually easier in the dead bug on the floor because one of them's already done for you. So you've got the arching as much as you can in this position, you've got rounding as much as you can in this position, and then we're finding that flat position here, which, like I say, isn't the easiest to find, because unless you've got a mirror you can't actually see yourself. But in this flat position is where we can brace that core. The core can be on in all three, but in that flat position is where we're stabilising and bracing the core. That's what we're looking for, to keep the spine in its neutral position. So we're going to do that next on the floor down here. So in this position, with your feet flat, quite close to the bum, knees up, and then I'm going to lift my arms up here. You don't have to, but just so you can see my back. So I'm arching first of all, so there's a big gap under my back here when I arch, and I'm going to tuck. So I've actually lifted my bum off, so I'm really tucking the hips up, and then I'm arching again. So arch, so it's literally a cat-cow, but down in this position here. So a huge arch, big tuck, tucking that hips up off the floor. Arch and tuck. My feet are staying flat. The only thing that's moving is my hips. My hips doing all this movement here, arching and tucking like so. So keep going with this. You literally cannot do enough of this, because it's something you kind of want to ingrain into your brain as a movement. Find that muscle memory, so when you're having to engage the core, it's easy to do so. So continuing here with our arching and rounding. Now let's find a flat back. So if it's going to a full arch, now I'm going to tuck my hips only so much that my back is completely flat to the floor, like so. So I'm not lifting that bum off. The bum is just off from coming off the floor, and then I'm engaging my core there. So I've got a nice flat back position. This is where we're going to spend most of our time today in this dead bug, because this is the key. This is the key part of it. But what we can do with that is actually engage the core even more. So what I want you to start with is that position there where you're tucking the hips. So you're literally pulling your hips upwards, tucking them up, but not so much that the bum comes off like so. So that is key component number one. Tuck the hips up so your bum is just about to come off, and that is should be engaged in the lower core like so. Dead bug is two parts, it's the upper and lower body separated. So we'll focus on the upper body next. So forget the lower body for now, relax that. So I'm going to take my arms above my head now. Now the same way I can arch my hips, depending on your shoulder mobility, you could be lacking mobility, and this could be causing you to arch a lot by having your arms out straight here, if you can even get them there. Or you may just be able to maintain this nice flat position with no issues at all. Either way, allow your back to naturally round anyway, naturally arch anyway. And then all I'm going to ask you to do is bring your arms forward. Now I am purposely maintaining an arch at the moment, but what you should be able to do is slightly round as any tension in your shoulders goes. Now the one thing I'm doing, which I'm going to take off now, is the head as well. So like a crunch, this is just a crunch. You're bringing the head off as the arms come forward. Now this is the movement we're focusing on, but we're going to get a lot more specific into what we should actually be doing here. Like so, it's all about the ribs. So as the hips come up, your ribs, so let's arch that back again. Your ribs are here. We're looking to drive your ribs downwards to the floor, so ribs go down. And that's what we're looking for here. Let's, from the hands here, you're going to bring the hands forward and drive those ribs down into the floor and downwards into this position. And my head's naturally coming up like so. So driving those ribs down like that. Driving the ribs down. Now you can do this with your hands above your head. It also becomes tougher, like so. Now the reason my head's coming off is because if I left it here, like so, it's more the hips. Whereas naturally, trying to keep that spine in neutral, it brings your head just slightly off. We're not trying to stress the neck or anything like that. It's just a natural movement that happens here. So driving into that position, and then we're in that locked on position there. So you should have that movement down now. So they are the two components of a dead bug. Where the hips are, and remember the hips are coming up, and where the ribs are and the upper body, the ribs are going down and driving into the floor here. So that is the basics to how the dead bug works. Putting the dead bug into action now. We're going to start off with our knees up and our feet off the floor. So knees are at 90 degrees, they're directly above our hips, and our feet are just out at 90 degrees, holding them in position 2. Now what we want to make sure of is we're not arching that back. So let's get those hips engaged first. So tucking those hips up, not so much that the bum comes off, just so much that it's just about to, and we're engaging that lower core. We're then going to engage the arms. So the arms come into this position here where they're directly above the shoulder, driving those ribs down. So our head's slightly off, but not straining our neck at all, just neck's off, driving the ribs down. So from here, engaging those ribs. Now I've got an engaged core at the top and at the bottom. I've got a really braced core. That's what this is all about today, finding that core brace, okay? So you can relax down there a second while I take you through our first exercise. But that is our stable position. That's where we're going to kind of refer to. If any of it gets too tricky today, that's the main thing I want you to take away from it, focusing on being in that position and doing as many exercises from it as you can. But if we ever find that we're doing a complicated exercise, and then we're starting to lose that position where we're arching and stuff, when we're going out, then we don't want that, okay? So I'll get back in this position now. We're here. So first of all I'm going to do is take an arm out. Now notice, the only thing that's moving is the arm because you've got a stable core here. The core is working by keeping you in this position, which is what we want. I'll take the other arm out. Nothing is moving apart from the arm. The core is working. If you're doing this with me, you won't feel much because the arms aren't the hardest part of this. The core is working to keep your body stable whilst these arms go out. So this is part 1. I just want you to do 5 or so on each side. We'll just do it with me. Not really counting reps today, just working on form. Like so. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is exactly the same with the legs. So we're going to take a leg out. Now if you do struggle, if you've got tight hips or anything, you may not be able to help it and you feel that back arch. That's okay in terms of, if that happens, just don't go as far. What we get people do all the time is think, oh, Richard's going all the way out, like so I need to go all the way out. And they end up arching because they haven't got the range of motion. But I don't want that. I want you to go to your range of motion. The main thing is keeping that dead bug on. So once you're here, if you can only go to there or here, doesn't matter where you can go, maintaining those hips tucked up and those ribs tucked down is what we want to focus on. But if you can, go to your range of motion, foot goes out and then back in. But like the arms, nothing is moving apart from that leg. The core's staying on. I'm keeping nice and controlled movement here. Again, join in with this, bracing that core, breathing through it. Even though you're bracing the core, like I'm obviously talking through this, it does take practice, but there's no need to hold your breath when you are engaging the core. It does make breathing slightly more difficult. You have to time it a bit better, but it's not impossible. So rest it there. So that is the basics out of the way. The hardest part of finding with clients with the core is the coordination side of it. So the dead bug. So the full dead bug is you take an opposite arm to the opposite leg out. So take your time with this, but the key you need to focus on always is you're always pointing to the ceiling with one hand and one foot. So back into this position, I've got all of my fingers and toes are pointing to the ceiling, like so, okay? They're all up. Now at any point, there's always 2. So I'm going to choose an arm and a leg. So let's take my left leg's going out, which means my right arm's going out. As you can see, I'm still pointing up with my left hand and my right toes are pointing up. They then come back together and the opposite side. What we get a lot of is this, trying to do dead bugs. But always think, you just got to constantly be focused on this, that you're always pointing with one hand and toes to the ceiling. So out they go. Again, as you can see, the only part of me is moving is the arm and the leg. Everything else is staying stable. That core is staying braced down to the floor. Out we go and back in. Now, if you are struggling with the neck, there's nothing wrong with having the head resting down, as long as you have that ability to keep the ribs down. So feel free to rest this head down at any point. But again, keeping it up is keeping that spine nice and neutral, like so, when the ribs are fully off and the shoulders are fully off. So rest there. That is the coordination, probably the hardest part of the dead bug, which just takes practice, but always remember one hand and one foot are pointing to the ceiling. Now we're going to take it into a double dead bug, which is way easier in terms of coordination, but harder on maintaining those hips and ribs. So double dead bug, we're back in that position. If your quads are hurt, by the way, it's normal. They're activating by just holding your legs here. So just fight through that. But we're here, we're in this dead bug position again. We're going all 4 out. So they go out. Now at this point, if you are arching and losing your dead bug position, then don't do it, or at least don't go as far as I've just gone fully extended here. Again, it's all about keeping these ribs and hips driven down into the floor. So back to the start, all the way out, all the way back in. Ribs and hips staying fixed down to the floor. Don't rush these exercises. This is a controlled movement
in and out like so. If you're having to add speed to it to get it done, then it's just as bad as losing that arch, causing that arch in your back. You want to maintain the position and be controlled with it. So you're fully out and fully back in. Like so. And rest there. So that is kind of the fundamentals of dead bug. I didn't want to overcomplicate things. We're going to do a few reps of stuff now, just to kind of work on it a bit more. But it's a very simple exercise, but very effective in terms of working your core. So just think of that focus at all points, because it's going to help you in so many exercises as we go forward, which is why I've chosen to do it early in these Training 20 videos. So bring yourself back. We're going to just mess about with it now. We're going to start with 5 arms going back, like so, keeping that core on. So they're nice and easy, so rest there. Now, the movement's all from the hips, so that's key. So what we're going to do is a hip down one, which means we're going to keep our legs up like this. But what I want you to do is tap your heels to the floor whilst keeping a 90 degrees in your legs, which is harder than it looks. To not only maintain that 90 degrees, that right angle in your knee, but also use the core to do it. So what a lot of people do here is bend their legs. I don't want any bend from the knees. So if you watch, I stay in that right angle, like so. And all I'm doing here is still keeping that core position exactly the same, tapping those heels down. Go 5 on each side here, whilst in that position. That's a great work, especially for the lower core down here. Rest that. Now we're going to do that with both legs. So back up we come, join me with 5 reps. Again, maintaining that 90 degrees, tap the heels and back up. All the movement is coming from the hips, but the hips are staying tucked up with the core strong. Got 5 reps, so 2 more. And rest there. Now we're going to turn that into a full double dead bug. In fact, we'll do the singles first. So bring it back up. So we're taking opposite arm, but just the heel here. Now this is actually easier than the full dead bug. The reason we're doing it is to learn to move from the hips. Having that control of your body to know exactly where you're moving from is really going to help you with a ton of exercises. So rest down there, and then we'll try doubles. So back up we come, out they go, but just from the hips, keeping those hips tucked up. Like so, nice. Have a little rest there. You can give your legs a little shake out. Now we're going to finish with a couple of sets on the full dead bugs again, so both the single and double dead bugs, just to finish it off. And actually you can't do this enough in terms of practicing it, so you learn how the movement actually works. So here we go. We're going to go, let's go 8 on each side for both to finish off, and then we'll call it a day. So up we come, we're going singles, 8 on each side, and then we're going 8 doubles. 1, 2, nice control, focus on those hips and ribs. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to go straight into that full for the final 8. Out we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Good job, rest there. So it's actually quite a lot of core work in the end there today, and it is a lot of work on one exercise, but that's purposely done because some of these exercises need a lot of focus and a lot of work to be able to perform properly. So I'm going to be doing a lot of these for different exercises that I consider fundamentals. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you managed some good dead bugs and got something from it. Otherwise, have a nice weekend, and hopefully I'll see you Monday. I'll post the new schedule for next week on Sunday.